Right now, as you're listening to these words, you're playing a game. Several games, actually. And these games are costing you everything, your peace, your joy, your very life. And you never even agreed to play them. Here's where it gets interesting. I'm not talking about some abstract philosophical concept. I'm talking about specific patterns, specific habits of mind operating right now in this moment, shaping how you experience reality. And the beautiful thing, you can quit these games immediately. Not gradually, not after years of meditation immediately. Because once you see a game for what it is, once you recognize the trick, you can't be fooled anymore. The spell breaks just like that. We're going to look at 7 of these games together. 7 patterns that the spiritually awakened soul simply stops playing. And when I say awakened, I don't mean someone sitting on a mountaintop in robes. I mean someone who sees clearly, someone who's recognized these games and walked away from them. What I'm about to show you isn't theory. It's about your actual experience right now. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Listen to that voice in your head. It's whispering right now. There's not enough. Not enough money. Not enough time. Not enough love. And because there's not enough, you must grab, compete, accumulate, protect what's yours before someone else gets it. This is the scarcity game. And what makes it so insidious is it feels completely real. It feels like you're just being realistic, responsible, practical. But watch what happens. You get the raise, and within days you're worried about the next one. You achieve the goal, and immediately a new goal appears. The finish line keeps moving because the race was rigged from the start. Why? Because the scarcity isn't out there in the world. It's in herein how you're perceiving the world. Look at nature for a moment. Does a tree produce one seed, carefully rationed? No, it produces thousands, thrown out with wild abandon. Does the sun ration its light? Does the ocean count its waves? Nature operates on abundance. Outrageous abundance. The scarcity you feel is a human invention, created by ideas of ownership and borders and the notion that pieces of the universe can belong to isolated individuals. But you are not separate from this abundant universe. You are an expression of it. When you see through this, your body relaxes. That anxious clutching releases, and suddenly you notice abundance everywhere. Your neighbor buys a new car, and suddenly yours seems inadequate. Your colleague gets promoted, and you feel you've fallen behind. Someone's marriage looks perfect, and you wonder what's wrong with yours. But here's what you're missing. You're comparing your insides to their outsides. You know every doubt in your mind, every fear, every moment of confusion. You see yourself first thing in the morning, unprepared, unpolished, but them, you only see their public presentation. That person in the expensive suit walking down the street, you think there goes success, but you don't see the marriage falling apart, the debts being hidden, the desperation behind the confident smile. You're comparing your complete, messy reality to their carefully constructed appearance, and comparison assumes there's some universal measuring stick for all lives. But who created this standard? A businessman in Manhattan measures success one way. A farmer in Iowa measures it completely differently. Your life is your life. Gifts. This exact combination of gifts and limitations has never existed before and never will again. So what are you comparing it to? When you quit this game, all that energy hemorrhaging into envy becomes available for actually living. You discover what genuinely interests you, not what you think should interest you. We map out 5-year plans, 10-year plans. We save for retirement. We schedule every hour. We try to control tomorrow as if life were a chess game where we can calculate every move. But here's the catch. The future never arrives. Think about it. When has the future ever come? You plan for it, worry about it, sacrifice for it. And when you finally reach that point in time, it's not the future anymore. It's now. It's the present. And if you've spent your whole life preparing for tomorrow, you've missed the only time that ever exists. You're listening to a Mozart symphony. What's the point? To reach the final chord as quickly as possible? Of course not. That would be absurd. The point is the music itself, each note as it arises and passes. Life is the same. It's not about reaching some destination where you can finally relax after the degree, after the career, after retirement. There's always another after. You're always preparing for a tomorrow that recedes like the horizon. When you quit this game, you're suddenly here. Actually here, not mentally rehearsing next week or worrying about next year. And paradoxically, you become more effective because you're not operating from anxiety. We're obsessed with becoming better, reading self-help books, attending lectures, following disciplines designed to perfect our character, always working on ourselves, always trying to upgrade who we are. But look beneath this noble pursuit. The entire premise is that you, as you are right now, are not acceptable. You are deficient, inadequate, fundamentally broken, and if you just follow the right program, you'll finally fix yourself and become worthy. I knew a man who spent 20 years trying to improve his character. He studied all the philosophers, practiced meditation, followed strict moral codes, and he was miserable. Why? Because beneath all that striving was one message: you're not enough as you are. He was at war with himself. Here's what's counterintuitive. Spiritual awakening isn't about becoming more, it's about becoming less, not adding qualities, but subtracting, letting go of all the ideas about who you should be so you can discover who you actually are. Think of a gold statue covered in mud. You don't need to improve the gold. The gold is already perfect. You just need to remove the mud, the accumulated conditioning, the judgments, the shoulds. When you quit trying to be someone you're not, something remarkable happens. Your genuine interests emerge naturally. Your authentic voice develops without effort. You're like a tree that doesn't agonize over growing. It simply grows according to its nature. You can't control outcomes. You can control your effort, your care, your integrity, but results depend on timing, circumstances, other people's choices, infinite factors beyond your influence. I knew a potter who worked for years perfecting his craft. Pots would crack in the kiln. He'd shrug and start another. His joy was in the making, the feel of clay, the turning wheel, the dance between his hands and the material. Whether they sold was irrelevant. Compare that to someone who writes a book solely for it to become a bestseller. The writing becomes torture because it's burdened with expectation. Every sentence carries the weight of hoped-for results. Watch children playing in a garden. They build stick houses that fall down. They chase butterflies they'll never catch. They're completely absorbed in the activity itself, not calculating outcomes. Thus, the state we've lost full engagement without outcome dependence. Care. When you quit needing things to go a certain way, your whole relationship with life shifts. You can give something complete attention while remaining unattached to results. Failure becomes information, not identity. Success becomes a pleasant surprise, not the source of your worth. From birth, you've been taught you're separate, an isolated individual, distinct from everything else. You're in here. The world is out there, and there is a clear boundary between them. But where do you actually end and the world begin? At your skin. Your skin exchanges molecules with air constantly. The oxygen you breathe becomes your blood. Food becomes your cells. Your cells die and return to Earth. You're not a fixed entity. You're a process, a flow, a pattern in constant exchange. Go deeper. Your thoughts, personality, sense of self, where did they come from? Your parents, culture, language, every conversation you've had, every book you've read. You didn't create yourself in isolation. You emerged from the entire context of existence. You didn't come into this world. You came out of it like a wave from the ocean, like an apple from a tree. You're not separate from the universe. You're what the universe is doing right here, right now. Every atom in your body was forged in a dying star billions of years ago. The carbon in your bones, the iron in your blood, all created in stellar furnaces and scattered across space. You are literally made of stardust. You are the universe looking at itself. Boom. When this recognition hits not intellectually but viscerally, the narrative of separateness collapses, and with it, so much suffering, because most problems stem from this illusion. Anxiety from feeling like an isolated individual defending against a threatening world. Loneliness from believing we're fundamentally separate. Greed from thinking we must grab our portion. But when you recognize interconnectedness, everything changes. Harming others is like harming yourself because they aren't separate from you. Compassion arises spontaneously. You recognize yourself in every face. Nothing lasts. Everything you love will disappear. Every relationship ends. Every body decays. Every moment dies as it's born. And we hate this. We fight it with everything we have. Photographs, monuments, insurance policies, legal contracts, all attempting to create permanence in an impermanent world. But you're fighting the nature of reality itself, like standing in a river trying to stop the water from flowing. Here's what you're missing. Impermanence isn't a problem. Your resistance to it is. Why are cherry blossoms beautiful? Because they bloom for weeks, then fall. If they bloomed forever, would they move your heart? The Japanese celebrate this whole festivals devoted to the transience of blossoms. Beauty and impermanence are inseparable. Why is music moving? Because each note dies as the next is born. If one note played eternally, it wouldn't be music. It would be torture. The arising and passing away is what makes it music. I've watched thousands of sunsets, each one unique, unrepeatable, gone forever. That's what makes each precious. If sunsets lasted forever, I'd stop noticing them. When you embrace impermanence, truly accept the transient nature of all things, you become radically present. If this moment is fleeting, it becomes infinitely precious, exactly as it is. You stop postponing joy. The meal tastes better when you're not worried about it ending. The conversation is richer when you're not taking it for granted. The embrace is more precious when you acknowledge its finite nature. Now, you might be thinking, all right, I see these patterns, but what do I actually do about it? And this is the crucial point. Understand that seeing is the solution. Not doing, but seeing. When you genuinely recognize an illusion for what it is, it loses its power automatically. You don't need a technique to stop believing in something you've seen through. If I show you how a magic trick works, you don't need a method to stop being fooled by it. When you catch yourself in the scarcity game, pause. Just pause. Look around. Notice the air you're breathing freely. Notice that your heart is beating without charging you. The pause itself breaks the spell. When comparison arises, ask yourself, whose life am I actually living right now? Yours, only yours. This isn't selfishness, it's sanity. When you find yourself lost in future planning, recognize, the future is a thought happening now. That's all it is. You're here thinking about the future. Regarding self-improvement, instead of asking how can I become better, ask what am I not accepting about myself right now. The question reveals the game. For outcome dependence, engage fully, release completely, give, whatever you're doing, your complete attention and care. Then let go of needing it to turn out a specific way. Here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about achieving some special state. It's not about becoming enlightened in some dramatic way. It's about seeing clearly what's actually happening rather than what you've been told is happening. The awakened soul isn't someone who has reached some distant goal. It's someone who has recognized that there's nowhere to reach, nothing to acquire, no one to become. They've quit the games not through effort, but through seeing. You don't need years of practice to see through an illusion. You just need to look clearly, honestly, without the filter of what you've been told to see. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. Life stops being a problem to be solved and becomes a dance to be danced, and you realize you've been dancing all along. You just forgot to notice. The freedom you're seeking isn't in the future. It's here, right now, in the simple recognition of what's true. And what's true is this: you are enough. You've always been enough. The universe doesn't make mistakes, kid, and you are an expression of that universe. So quit the games. Not gradually, not eventually immediately, through seeing them for what they are. This moment, this breath, this irreplaceable experience of being alive, that's it. That's everything. And somehow, impossibly, miraculously, it's enough. Welcome home.